One of the aspects of the early Noble Ape development that I wanted to talk about was associated with antiviral software. This doesn't make a lot of sense. We say I was developing antiviral software and it helped me with Noble Ape. But there was a lot of analysis that went to the antiviral software associated with heuristics. You're looking associated with virus propagation. You're trying to see virus propagation through things that you can sense on a computer or a network of computers. In fact, it's the network of computers virus propagation stuff that I basically cut my teeth on. I mean, that's, the work that I did that the Australian Attorney General's Department used, which is basically the same as the Department of Justice here in the US. So the notions in antiviral software were associated with growth and propagation. One of the models that I used was associated with agar, which is like the petri dish that grows bacteria, looking at how bacteria grows. So I had early agar simulations that I worked on through my late teens to look at models of virus growth, or just growth models, basically, in agar. And through these models, I developed a mathematical suite that I used for two things in the Noble Ape simulation. I used it for the weather aspect of Noble Ape simulation. I also used it for the cognitive simulation, or at least, the early development of these two things. So if you look at antiviral software, you wouldn't think, how does it translate to what you do with Noble Ape? Well, it was this mathematics, the raw mathematics associated with looking at how viruses propagate. I wrote about this in a book called Nature-Inspired Informatics. And it was actually quite fun writing about it because this was actually, I think, my first academic publication, my first serious academic publication, peer-reviewed academic publication. I wrote about this. And it was fun because it was me, literally me and 100 academics. And then it was me and 50 academics, and it was me and 25 academics, and then it was me and 12 academics. And my work with Noble Ape had gone through this kind of competitive peer review and was as important as the stuff that these academics had done. And it's not that I thought negatively of my work, I just never really critically thought about it in the context of academia. And that was something very strange to me, that actually by doing this simulation independently for so many years, the work actually had some benefit for academics. It had some long-term benefit. And it's one of the things where it's not necessarily that I don't have an ego or these kind of things, it's that I just don't see how, I was working on my own stuff, right? I wasn't caring about the outside world, I was just a tinkerer, I was just like a model railroad, just doing my own stuff. And then the experiences were meritorious enough to get published, and the stuff I wrote about early on was how this antiviral software that I'd developed for years prior had actually gone in to develop the cognitive simulation. And it was this knowledge, this learning of patterns and growth and, moving through, it's ultimately information theory, moving through, rich substrate media. And I think actually it could go full circle back. And the beauty that I love with these simulations, there's this notion of simulation science, which I didn't come up with. A fellow called, what's his name? Stephen Gurin, did at, I think it was at Los Alamos, or at Santa Fe Institute, one of those two, probably Santa Fe Institute. And he came up with this notion of simulation science, where the simulation actually feeds back into regular science. And I had great fun jamming with him, talking with him, because he was talking about how there's so much stuff in the world that doesn't really have a language associated with it. And the simulation science is really to create a language for these things to feed back into science, and also to get results that go back into science. And with both the agar simulation and the weather simulation, actually, ironically, in some strange way, these things have had feedback into science, which, very interesting, and as being just a tinkerer. But then you go back to Darwin, and Darwin was fascinated by pigeon fanciers. Like, he thought the pigeon fanciers were just, they had knowledge associated with pigeons that no one else had, because no one spent long periods of time with pigeons. I mean, there were academics that studied pigeons from afar, but if you're racing pigeons and you're breeding pigeons and you've got all this stuff and pigeons are your hobby, your life, then you're going to have knowledge that not even scientists are going to have. And I think that's something that I've always reflected upon with regards to Noble Ape. That take this knowledge. Artificial life, artificial intelligence, antiviral software. What's the collusion? Well, I think I've explained that in some strange way. So yeah, it was interesting. It was interesting work, and I'm still doing this stuff. When I talk about the weather that I'm working on currently, same kind of principles as just taking this mathematics and making it, visually look like clouds that move, and optimizing the mathematics and that. That's what I'm having fun with currently. Doing lots and lots of mathematical optimization. So they move seamlessly, and they're beautiful to dissipate, and all the qualities that you get from clouds in atmosphere just run so it can run in real time and look beautiful. The aesthetic intoxication associated with these things I've tried to talk about. It's difficult to actually reflect upon it, but doing it for yourself is one thing, and I do now. I don't release the simulation as much as I used to. I used to release the simulation, sometimes like twice a month I'd release a new version of Noble Ape. And there were, 800, 2,000 users at some stage, this thing. It was kind of exciting because you're in the kind of release cycle simulation. I do this with work. My whole life is release cycle with my work professionally. But, it was fun actually doing it in open source and looking at new features and getting feedback and track bugs and all this kind of stuff. And, all the stuff I do professionally, basically now. But yeah, it's interesting, the notion of the hobbyist tinkerer and whether or not the hobbyist tinkerer can actually contribute back to science in some meaningful way. Anyway, that's a little digression. I think I'm probably going to go through these kind of digressive thoughts quite extensively through these recordings because they always seem to yield into some abstract digression somewhere. Anyway, if you're enjoying the videos, please let me know. Please subscribe. Please promote the videos as well. I really appreciate the people that have been reposting the videos and saying, hey, these videos are important. Other people should look at them as well. Because that's basically the aim of these videos, is to convey some degree of interest, or at least there's more depth to the world, right? There's currently a very thin level of depth to the world. And my hope is that these videos will give something in contrast to that.